So, out of curiosity, if somebody makes a video essay about a Christmas classic but misses the Christmas deadline, can they still get it out before New Year's Day and count it as a holiday special? Anyway, let's talk about It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life was originally a short story by American author Philip Van Doren Stern. This is a guy who I had to look up, and it seems like he was a really big deal in Civil War history, but maybe everybody knows him except for me, and I feel really dumb. This short story was picked up by RKO, which planned on taking Van Buren Stern's short story and turning it into a vehicle for their star, Cary Grant. Thankfully, this didn't work out, and he made The Bishop's Wife instead.
I got an idea.
What?
The Bishop's Wife is different. Let's keep it that way. Let's have no trailer.
Oh, David, a picture without a trailer?
No, that's it. Why take all the wonderful surprises out of it before people see it?
All right, sold. No trailer.
No trailer. Wait a minute.
Goodbye.
Well, maybe if you'd had a trailer, I would have watched the movie, David Niven. Once optioned, RKO struggled to adapt the short story. Clifford Odets and Dalton Trumbo both completed versions of the scripts, but after that, they just gave it to one of their most prestigious directors, Frank Capra. Capra then wrote the screenplay himself, though with the assistance of around 5 script doctors, studio screenwriters, including Dorothy Parker, but only Capra was credited. Frank Capra himself was a fascinating figure. A Sicilian immigrant to America, he had become famous in the 30s for making these optimistic and idealistic pictures of America. Mr. Deeds goes to town. Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Ernest goes to camp. Okay, that last one was a joke. I just thought I needed a joke here. Sorry. Here's World War II. When World War II broke out, he ended up making a series of very influential propaganda docs for American GIs. Some of these propaganda films were brilliant re-edits of fascist propaganda, and others were, well, they were really, really racist. But now that Capra was back in Hollywood, what would his first post-war film be?
I wondered what in the hell kind of a picture should I make now. I certainly wasn't going to make any pictures about war. I was so sick of war. I hated the damn war. It was terrible things that should have been eliminated years and years and years ago. And here they are shooting and bombing at each other. I was not very happy with it anymore. I was very active, but I'm not very happy about the human race. So I wasn't going to make a picture about war. I had enough of that. What kind of a picture shall I make?
Capra knew he needed a leading man who could really capture the spirit of American idealism, and of course he was going to find that in George Bailey himself, Mr. Jimmy Stewart. Like Capra, Stewart had volunteered to join the war despite studios and the government being more than willing to let him slide. But unlike Capra, he was unwilling to take what he saw as special treatment by not actually entering the field. He instead was a combat pilot, actually making it all the way up to colonel. This was Stewart's first film back, and it foreshadowed a turn towards dark roles that the actor would later become known for. During the production of It's a Wonderful Life, its subject matter, and probably the fact that Odets and Trumbo had been on the screenplay, made J. Edgar Hoover spend a little bit of attention on it. The idea of an evil banker threatening a local credit union was a little too topical, even in '43. It's a Wonderful Life was not a hit in theaters. Maybe the release schedule or possibly the tone of the material, but the film just didn't find an audience immediately. Ironically, it was a financial miracle that brought the movie back into the public eye. Because of a copyright lapse, It's a Wonderful Life was able to fall into the public domain, and because by that time, television was looking for quality content to feed its airwaves, the film slowly reached a greater and greater audience. This popularity didn't come without problems. It's a Wonderful Life was caught in the center of the debate about how films should be preserved. When Ted Turner developed Turner Classic Movies, he also developed a process of colorizing films that had been shot on black and white film.
Black and white movies are a distinct and separate art form from color movies. They're lit differently, they're shot differently. It's no accident that most of the great movie stars came from black and white movies, because black and white movies, you look at people's faces. Color movies, you look at the drapes.
When I heard about this, I just couldn't imagine why they would do this. I just felt that the color wasn't needed. The color, because of the scenes, because of the way the picture was shot, the intimate way the picture was shot, the color wasn't needed.
As weird as it is to look at the colorized version of Ted Turner's It's a Wonderful Life, in my eyes, there's an even weirder version of the movie floating out there. You see, the very thing that made It's a Wonderful Life so popular, that marathon every year coming onto the TV, it also poisoned its memory. So many of us remember watching It's a Wonderful Life with our families, and we remember the cheer and the joy of the ending. And if we remember anything else, it's probably that it's longer than you remember every single time. But what we often forget is that underneath the Christmas, underneath the garland and the glitter and the snow, there's a very dark story about the American experience. So the next time you sit down to watch It's a Wonderful Life, try not to see just the holiday classic, but the subversive story that is more relevant now than ever, especially as the world looks more and more like Pottersville. Hi friends, I hope you're having a happy new year and hope you enjoyed the video. This is hopefully the first of many videos I put out on my new YouTube channel. Ordinarily, this is when my Patreon subscribers would be scrolling by, but currently, I don't have any Patreon subscribers. So instead, I want to take this chance to thank two people whose financial donations made this video possible, Mr. Joshua Garrett and Mr. Micah Riffle. Thank you guys, I really could not have done this without you. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more, please click the like button, share the video with a friend. If you'd like to make a donation, there's a link to my Ko-fi in the description, and every little bit really does help. Thank you very much for all of your support, and I hope you have a great new year.